Hi, in this video I want to talk about anxiety, and I'm going to share my experience of anxiety, and more importantly, I want to tell you how I managed to cure both my anxiety and my depression totally. If you're watching this video, then I'm assuming that you're either suffering from anxiety yourself or you know somebody that is. So please watch the video to the end if you can, because I think the information on here will be helpful to you. And I do genuinely believe that I feel that it's my personal responsibility to tell you what I know. Anyway, I'm Matt, I'm 48 years old, and my anxiety started probably at birth. I don't really know, but as a kid, I remember being scared of lots of things. I had very little confidence, which had nothing to do with my upbringing or anything like that. I just felt scared, but at that age, I just thought it was a normal feeling. But I do remember looking at other kids and wondering how they managed to have the confidence that they had. I had my first job at 16 as a trainee photographer, and I remember how I felt if I was the only person in the office. I was basically scared in case a customer turned up and I had to deal with them. And then there was a phone. I just hated the phones, and the thought of the phone ringing and me having to answer it and talk to people that I didn't know. It was just a nightmare for me. Anyway, I didn't make a big thing about it because, I didn't really know any difference. I just thought it was me. But if I fast forward a few years to about the age of 23, I was working in the prison service as a prison officer. Now, I struggled doing that job, and I had just married someone that was, shall we say, very difficult to live with. And I think this was when my 25-year-long problem with depression started. I don't want to go too much into depression. I have done another video on that. So if you want to look at that, just click subscribe and you can find that. So back to anxiety. Between the ages of 23 and 27, my life was basically pretty crap. I was struggling with simply living. I was on a lot of antidepressants as well as sleeping pills, and I was medically retired from the prison service, and I was married and divorced in around 6 months. I planned my own suicide twice, but luckily I never followed through with that. And it probably took me 4 years or so to really be able to start functioning again. I hated antidepressants. I did have a lot of side effects with those, so I stopped taking them as soon as I could. And the next 20 years, I tried to rebuild my life from what it was. I always found life hard. I had good times, I had bad times, like we all do. But my depression and anxiety were always there. I think looking back that, it was then when my depression started, and I became aware that my anxiety had moved to a different level, shall we say. And I was actually realising that it wasn't exactly normal. Up to about 8 months ago, my anxiety was still affecting my life. Most of the time, I still managed living with it because I had no choice. But my life was difficult, and I do feel now that I had lost out on a chunk of my life. My anxiety controlled what I did and what I didn't do. I had good days and I had bad days. Decisions were always difficult for me because I couldn't make them. I was afraid of making the wrong decision. It was like, what would happen if I did something, what if that was the wrong thing to do? What might happen? and I would start panicking about the consequences of what might happen. But then what if I didn't do that thing? What if that was the wrong decision? What would happen? What would happen then if I didn't do it? What would be the consequences of not doing it? And my brain was constantly in turmoil, and it just couldn't handle it. I would always put off making decisions as long as possible. And I believe really that I was, afraid of living really. I didn't socialise that much because I found that home was my safe place. So as soon as work finished, I would come home and stay there, and at least I could feel safe. Another example, when I was at my worst, was, let's say I was out driving and someone picked the horn. Now I would wonder if they were pipping at me, and I didn't know if they were pipping at me or not. But if they were, what did I do wrong? And then I'd start panicking again. What if they turned around and followed me? What if they followed me home? What if they put a brick through my window? What if they had a knife? What if they stabbed me? And it was always what if. I did have relationships through this period, but they were difficult as well. I was scared of getting somebody pregnant. I was scared of the commitment. I was scared of doing something wrong, and on top of that, I was afraid of going to work. I was afraid of going to the supermarket. I was afraid of so many stupid things, like talking to people that I didn't know, going to places that I didn't know, and change. That was another big one. I really struggled with change. And the thought of having to do something different just really freaked me out. Again, I was just totally scared of living. Adding to the mix from, I've been suffering from depression as well. It just adds to the pressure really. And 25 years, I was basically living half a life. And it was just difficult. But nothing I could do really. Just have to get on with it. Like I said, I did plan my own death on 2 occasions. But this was at my lowest. And it was a long time ago. Something stopped me, I don't know what. But when you think about suicide, your head's not in the right place anyway. And what I was going to do was not the smartest way. I'm not going to go into details, but you don't think about the consequences at all. But anyway, that was then. But even when I was not at my worst, and I'm talking pretty recently, within the last 12 months, I still thought about killing myself a lot. Now, I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to go on feeling the way that I was feeling anymore. But all this changed when I started taking prehistoric plant-based minerals. Now, I didn't start taking them for anxiety, depression, or for any other mental health issue. In fact, the company that sells them, they make no health claim whatsoever. They just simply sell it as a supplement. But probably within 3 to 4 months, I noticed huge changes on how I felt, and how I thought. And it was almost like my brain had been reprogrammed. It really was. And it was such a gradual process as well. It was only when I thought back to how I used to feel that I actually worked out how things had changed so much for me. And I think this is probably because as human beings, we really very quickly accept normal and accept things being normal. I accepted feeling depressed. I accepted feeling anxious because I had no choice. I didn't like it. I didn't want to feel that way, but I still accepted feeling like that. But when you start feeling better, when you start thinking more rationally, when you no longer fear life and fear living, you just accept it as normal. It's really strange because I didn't wake up and think, oh, I feel better. Nothing like that at all. And I think that's because my brain had already started normalising, if that makes sense. It might sound strange, and I'm probably not getting it over in a good way. It's very difficult to explain just how I felt. But one thing that I do remember was a couple of months ago, and I was with my parents and my sister, and we were laughing at something somebody said. And I had sort of like a wow moment because I was really enjoying laughing. And it was like almost like a new feeling, like I'd never laughed before. It was strange, but it was very enjoyable. So now, it's probably 9 months on after starting taking these minerals, which I take every day, and I guarantee I will do for as far as I'm concerned, for forever now. But I am free from anxiety. I'm free from depression. I'm free from suicidal thoughts. And I'm basically free from fear. And when I just think about things, it's just such a wonderful feeling to feel the way I do now. Yet at the same time, I just feel normal. I know what it's like to suffer. I know what it's like to feel better. Suffering sucks at the end of the day. So I want to help as many people as I can. And the only way I know how to do that is to share my story with as many people as possible. If anybody out there wants to know more about these minerals, or you want to know anything else at all, my email address is below this video. So please feel free to contact me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Life is short, and life should be enjoyed. If you were suffering, I would just say try these minerals. I really would. You've got nothing to lose. And that's it. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.